All right, that should be we should be all ready to rock and roll. So, hello and welcome to another webinar. This is outside sales training, and my name's Jeremy Pierce. I'm really glad you could make it. So I hope everybody's doing really well today. Before I get in, I'll just let you know that this is recorded. So the slides are going to be sent out to you, and feel free to download all the bits and pieces in the resources tab. Also, there'll be some live chats, polls, and things going on as well. So I'm going to look at that all the time, and the chat is live, so I'll actually reply back to the chat in real time. So you can put all the questions and have a chat in there as well, and I'll be watching that from somewhere else. But just want to make sure that you know it's recorded. But it's because I wanted you to view this anytime you want. So this should probably take around about an hour, maybe less, if we're lucky. So I don't want to waste too much of your time, but I really just wanted to talk about how to communicate and negotiate in this time, in this COVID era that we're all living in right now. How do you increase your income, improve sales results, so you can achieve a better result? That's what we're here for. That's what we want to do. And there's ways of doing that. There's ways of achieving that still, even to this day. So, look, what I promise to leave you guys with is a wealth of knowledge, okay? And some quick steps that you can take so you can see an improvement in your sales results. So that's my promise to you guys today. So we want you to actually be able to implement it as well, implement it straight away into your business. So I'll give you a bit of a background about myself. So obviously over 10 years, a lot can happen. Now, here's a bit of a picture of me when I graduated university. Back then, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. Completing a uni degree, I finished a business degree with accounting major, and I knew that I wanted to own a business of some sort, but I didn't know what. I didn't know where. I didn't know what I wanted to do still. So it came from early days of playing video games. I loved growing businesses in tycoon games, and I loved making these little businesses profitable and growing and scaling them. So that was me 10 years ago, and this is me this year in 2020. As you can see, a little bit different, just a bit older. So I really didn't have any, strong grades when I was in high school, and when I left, I finished that degree and I became an accountant. So as you do, you finish your degree and you go and do the things that you are trained to do. Working as an accountant for a big corporate environment here in Brisbane, in Australia. And at 23, I decided, nah, that was it. This is super, super boring, and I didn't want to stare at a spreadsheet every single day of my life on Excel spreadsheets. And I didn't really do too much until I got a job at Telstra. Now, this sort of changed my life. I got a job at Telstra. They're the biggest telecommunications businesses. It's the biggest telecommunication business here in Australia. And I started in telesales, so over the phone telemarketing, and this is where my life really started. I took everything to the next level. I started thinking, living, dreaming about sales, and I just wanted to get better and better and better and better. And so that's where I joined a business sales team. I then coached and managed a team of 30 agents, and I went from earning an average $50,000 here in Australia to earning over $100K for my first year at Telstra. So from there, I moved on to a consulting job outside of Telstra to help out my friend's solar company. Now, he started this company. It was an electrical company, and he wanted to take it to the next level, and he didn't know how, but solar was the market. Solar is booming, and so he asked me if I wanted to help him out, bring on some sales. And what started as the first sales rep in the business, I then grew the sales team to over 10, and Pedley's is now doing over $20 million a year at one stage, I think he said. And with that, all the training and all the sales process building I took from there, I incorporated it into my own business. So I designed that so you can take a 5-6 figure business all the way up to 7 or 8 figures. So he's doing $10 million, $20 million now, and he started at about $1 million. And that's because we incorporated a sales process, a sales plan, and over the few years we've worked with another few different companies, and we found the biggest problems in the industry is that they don't have a repeatable sales process. So this is like the number one thing is, what do you do every day, and how do you communicate with people to get across your ideas to solve their problems? So there's too many costs associated with running a business, and selling and communicating doesn't require you to have any costs, just your time. So marketing, advertising, overheads, look, these all cost money, and you don't need to spend these ridiculous amounts of money with your business, especially if it's small. You don't need to build funnels, you don't need to build all this, spend all this money on websites and all this sort of stuff, right? And this is the number one reason why businesses fail, is because they don't get across their ideas, their services, they can't sell them without that. And they spend too much money in that, or the back end costs too much money. Now, another thing that a lot of businesses lack is accountability. So accountability of their staff, how much they're actually earning, and how the measuring of their actual results. So how do you actually improve on something when you can't measure it, when you can't hold yourself accountable? Another problem is that I found is that there's behavioral changes that take a long time to actually implement. So say, for example, just going to, say, a workshop for 2 days or a seminar for a day, it doesn't change your behavior. Behavioral changes take time. So you need to have a solution that's incorporated over a few months, and that's why coaching really helps in the long term. So now, once behavior has changed, you must consider sales cycles. Sure, you can improve your sales skills, you can speed up the process, but the average cycle you will see before you actually get measurable results. So the fifth thing is the external impacts, right? So lots of external things happening within a business, right? They can't actually see and apply any of the things that they've learned. So there's all these other things going on in the business. They can't actually manage what's going on in their sales team. And as well, the inability to apply what they actually learn in these seminars or workshops. And so that's why you need to be accountable for these, for the tasks, for the actions that you have for your reps, yourself, your business. Now, a lot of people have asked me questions. Firstly, let's just quickly get these out of the way with. Now, do you need a product or service to sell? Well, we're always selling every day of our lives. And you don't need a specific product or service to sell, because if you learn how to communicate and negotiate to get across your dreams, desires, goals, outcomes to people, because they will buy into you, whether it's getting a job or marriage or relationships. Selling is selling yourself, selling something. You need to always be selling something across to somebody. You want to be able to do the things in your life, so you need to be able to sell the idea. Do you need to have any previous education or knowledge? No, you can always improve at anything all the time. Even the best athletes in the world have coaches. So there's always things to continuously learn and get better at. Because sales is this muscle, it's a skill, it's a mind or brain muscle. Do you need large capital to start a business and scale a sales team? Like I said before, you can start selling with no capital whatsoever. All it requires is your time and energy. And so that is where, if you're not earning $20,000 a month, I wouldn't even look at advertising or marketing. It's useless, because that's where you need to start. You need to start selling at a small level and then build up the sales and marketing side. So how much information is in this course in the webinar over the course? Well, this covers just the general tips and tricks that you need to learn to actually have an impactful sales process. So it's just a quick couple of things that I think are the most important for you. And so in the course, there's hours of footage and 23 chapters you can actually run through. And so this is a very brief, squished down version. Now, the agenda for today is, there's three things that I want to cover. The first being why sales is so important. The second is what's an actual sales process. And three, the fortune is in the follow-up. So what do you do to follow up, and how do you follow up? Now, why? Why sales in general? So sales is the ability to create a customer. And a customer must first be a stranger, to then turn into a qualified lead, to then be a customer. The marketing, the advertising, all these other channels to drive leads, to drive sales. But sales itself, selling in general, it can be done without any of that stuff in general. So you can identify strangers, you can qualify your leads, and you can sell something and you close a deal. That's how you get a customer, right? Boom. Now, all these stages, you're probably aware of the awareness stage, the consideration stage, and the decision-making stage. So if you are a human, if you're, instead of a robot or an online page working for you to actually try to close these deals, if you use a human-to-human interaction, you're going to be able to close that deal, because you're going to be able to build awareness, consideration, and help the customer make a decision a lot quicker than if it was them trying to figure out that the answer to that problem in themselves. Because that's all you're there for. You're there to hold somebody's hand to make the decision for them, to help them, right? So I believe selling is. What do you think that is? I'll give you a couple of seconds to try to come up with an answer. So selling is an obligation. An obligation to gain the success you're ever going to make in your life. Your skill, or lack thereof, of selling, persuading, and negotiating impacts everybody on this planet. So no matter whether you're the janitor, a CEO, whatever you're doing, right? The belief that there's the idea that you need to sell something to someone else. Whether that's an idea, a belief, this is going to impact everybody, what you do on a day-to-day basis. You either learn to negotiate, sell, and convince people of what you want or an outcome that you desire, or somebody else is basically going to do it. Somebody else is going to win that customer, and so you need to be first. So selling is used what do you think that is? Every day, by everyone. Everybody does this every single day. So Wikipedia defines selling as the action of persuading a person or organization that's expressing an interest in acquiring the offered item of value. Okay? So starting one's own business is selling. Putting a business plan together is selling. Trying to get finance is selling. Buying a home is selling. A relationship is selling. Convincing people to do something or an outcome to support your ideas is selling. So customers buy products, and that's what people know of selling. And the number one reason why businesses fail is because they do not. What do you think that is? Put it in the chat. I want to see if anybody gets this because I'll time it. So the number one reason a business fails is because they do not sell enough, quickly enough, quick enough. So the number one reason a team, a business, an individual fails in their business is because they can't sell quick enough. Do you think? Do you agree? I want to hear your feedback. What do you reckon? Now, what happens when you start to sell? When you start to sell things, you start earning commissions. Commissions is anything that you're rewarded for your productivity. So, commissions could be recognition. Your commission could be a raise. What are some other things that you can think of? Chuck it up. I want to hear your feedback. What do you think some other commissions that you can actually receive in life are? So far we've got recognition and raises. What else is there? So we've got promotions, winning a contract, gaining new friends or business partners, even getting a vote on a political agenda or election. These are all types of commissions. You can earn a commission on anything. You run a business. Anything that you generate is your commission. You make profits. That is your commission. Now, there's no guarantees with anything in life. There's no guarantees that you make any money. But there's no guarantees that you're going to get paid from your super out, or you're going to get wages based on the day-to-day running of a business that you're working for. If you're working for the clock by the hour, there's no guarantees in life whatsoever. So you can't guarantee that business is going to exist forever. So just like in sales, right? You can't guarantee anything. So why not be rewarded for your actions instead of being monitored on the clock? If you put more productivity into your services than other companies or other people, then you should get a commission. You should be paid and benefited from that. Nothing in life is guaranteed. No business can guarantee this. And if your company goes, if your business that you work for goes, then your job will go. Now, who do they keep if they're going to keep somebody? They're going to keep the salespeople that are making money. Why? Because they're bringing in the money and not losing it. It's not a cost. So, how do you make sure that you actually bring in money? So, your actions are what brings in money. Now, what's your relationship with taking the right action? We all know that for every action, there is a reaction. And it's that reaction that gives you an overall result. So, what is a result of going to the gym? Health, right? So your health, gaining health, getting fit. There's results tied to the actions that you make. So don't be scared, because in a business, the planet relies on revenue to continue to exist. Your current workplace, your government, all relies on taxes to drive these economies. The best thing I ever did was to be rewarded for my actual productivity and the efforts that I made day to day. Now, the only way to becoming financially free is to earn the money and lifestyle you want, is to work on a commission and rely on selling and sales as your income. Now, what is that? It's a flu. It's a virus. Now, what do you think's changed in the sales world right now? What do you think's changed about selling, the environment? The whole landscape's changed. So, write these down. 1, old ways are not going to work. What are some old ways that we used to sell? We used to go door knocking. So that's sort of dropped now. We don't want to get in front of people that close. And these things might change, and they might change forever. But what else has changed? People are reluctant and uncertain in this time. Why is that? They don't know when the next dollar might come in. So what do you need to do? You need to adapt. So how can you now adapt to door-to-door sales or face-to-face meetings? What are you going to do to adapt right now? Put some questions in. Put your answers in, sorry. So I think there's a lot more sales now that are going to happen over the phone and especially over Zoom. And this is why these companies are skyrocketing, because all the sales are now made via these channels. What else can you do in your sales process that has changed and impacted you? What do you need to do? You need to change your message. So, change your message. You need to seed and grow. You need to have that mentality of seeding the farm and growing your customers as a farm and tending and nurturing them. Be empathetic and patient, because you look at a farm and you think, it just doesn't grow overnight unless you got some crazy cool fertilizer. But that is you're the fertilizer. But sometimes it takes time. So you need to be able to arm yourself with the most impactful data and information. So change your message, seed and grow, be empathetic, and arm yourself with more ammunition and data and information than ever. What do you think? Now, why sales? And why in general? Why do you do what you do? Who is this guy? Does anybody know? Type it in the chat. This is Simon Sinek, and he's a creator of a concept that he calls the golden circle. It's actually up right here. So Simon purports that great organizations seem to create their foundations by first identifying why they exist, then how they go about it, and finally what they do. So it's great and all, but I believe there's one thing missing. What is that one thing? Before why you must exist, who comes first? I gave you a little bit of a hint. Now, it's who. So, who is always the one that comes first? Because it's easy to be caught in the trap in your own beliefs. Now, if you lose sight of your customers' pain points and you just don't understand the problem that's going to be solved, and that's why you need to exist. First, you must identify who you actually serve to begin with. So if you know who you're going to serve first, you can go straight to them, right? So then you must understand why you exist. So you can actually put this into a sales pitch. This is your core pitch and your business why. This is why you exist, and this is how you can convince your customers in your product. So the sales pitch or power statement is designed to tell people about what you do and why they need to use you and your services. So I've put this together in a way where you can come up with a pitch based on these 4 golden circle rules. So first we have who we serve, what exact specific person that is. Then we have why we serve them. Then we have how we're going to actually be able to solve their problem. And with what solution are you going to solve that with? So I've come up with a pitch based on these 4 criteria of Simon Sinek's golden circle, which +1 with the additional who. Now, this defines your product, your brand, and your sales process. It defines everything. It defines your marketing voice and your brand. So I simply put this in as 3 sentences. This is we or I help who using this framework of what, and it's a new way to achieve a why. So you put the why in there by solving a problem of how. That way you can get a better outcome. So you can get a better outcome to do the things you want to do. So how you can get a better why. All right. So I help small business owners and sales teams use a proven sales method. It's a new way to guarantee results and scale your business by implementing a predictable sales process. That way you can set yourself free from the 9-to-5 job. That's what I believe, and that's what my pitch is. Who, why, how, and what. How we do it. So, what's the first step in all of this? Now, the first step to ensuring a great sales process and great sales team is the attitude. It may seem obvious, your mental state, your expectations, your dress code, the feeling of your position, this can be bad, great, or good. And the way you feel has a huge impact on what your day-to-day life is. So when you get a dopamine hit of doing your bed in the morning, if you actually try to make your bed every single morning, you'll actually find yourself getting in a better attitude every single day. Before you make a great like a phone call, a sales call, without a great attitude, right? Not a neutral attitude, but great attitude. It doesn't matter whether you're going into a call that you don't want to go into. The guy on the other line is terrible. He sounds like he's having a bad day. You still need to have a great attitude. You don't need to stand in front of a mirror and go, I'm so great, I'm so good, I'm so positive, right? But it's just about being sold on yourself, your company, and your success. People don't buy from who they don't feel good around. And so you need to be able to communicate positively. And if somebody hears, sorry, my nose is itchy. If somebody hears this positive attitude, then it's going to change the way they, act. And if you smile, you can see the difference between people that you're actually speaking with. So the difference between, everybody else's product or service, if everybody else is the same, their product, their service, the price, the only difference is then you and your attitude. But, how can you keep positive? How can you keep positive? And how can you have a good attitude doing it? So your attitude is actually defined by your thoughts and your content that you put into it. So what goes in comes out as an attitude. So the news that you read, the TV shows that you watch, the people that you hang around, and the conversations that you have are all affecting your attitude. So the first thing you need to do is make your bed. Stay positive and keep a good attitude. And practice. So one of the other things that makes sales so important is that it's very goal orientated. So you should always write your goals down every single day because, one, you want to make sure you finish things that are left undone. These will help your attitude. These will help the way you feel. Check in with yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. And how do you feel right now? Have daily meetings with yourself and others to enhance your attitude if you are feeling down. Write a list of things that you're grateful for. So gratitudes. Have a no negativity sign in the office. So why? So that first section of why, what did that involve? It involved your attitude. It involved goal setting. It involved your commissions. It involved the sales process and why it's important. So what do you think? Right? What was number 2? What was number 2 in the agenda? Write it down. Put it in the chat. What was number 2? So we had 1, why sales process. 2, what was the number 2? 2 is the recipe and the process. So with a sales process, what makes a recipe? Have you ever made a recipe and it's turned out terrible? I mean, I know I have made a recipe. You know, write something in the chat that you think you've actually, something terrible that you've made in a recipe. I want to hear it. This will be great because I know there's heaps of them. I've made so many terrible meals. Now, beer, for example. Beer has only 4 ingredients. 4 ingredients. And there's so many different types of craft beer. I want to mention the craft beer specifically. Change one thing in the whole entire recipe, the timing, the amount, when, it will change the whole entire beer. And so they perfect one method and one way of doing it and do it repeatable over and over and over again to get the same beer. So the same thing can be applied in a sales process. Now, how do you become excellent at something? How do you perfect your recipe? How can you do this in sales? So the more you practice selling your products, your stalls, your objections, your questions, anything can come up. If you're creating a new recipe, it's not going to be perfect. So you need to be able to create and prepare questions in advance. You want to make sure that you understand all the different answers that can actually happen on a sales call. So practice and brainstorm these answers. Now, pick up the phone. Practice using the phone and practice with customers. But you can always rehearse with your friends or your colleagues. So make sure that you prepare questions in advance, brainstorm your answers, practice and rehearse. That is how you get a fantastic sales process, and that's how you become excellent at something. So, what's the recipe for a sales process? Well, there's plenty of different structures out there, and it all depends on your type of business. But this is a general flow. If you follow this, you will increase your sales. So the most common way of beginning a sales process is by introducing yourself. So everything you say in the introduction, everything you do in the introduction will affect the call, will affect the meeting. Secondly, there will be a discovery on this person, qualification, questions. It's more question time, understanding the customer or the client. Step 3 is then you'll be presenting something of some sort. Because if you don't present something to the customer, then how will they actually understand and know what you want or what you're trying to offer them? Then there'll be some form of negotiations and a close. Then you'll be delivering it and you'll be following up these people, whether it's following up on the actual negotiations or close or following up the actual delivery of the product or service. So one of the biggest challenges right now is the actual call. So just making the call is the biggest challenge for a lot of salespeople and business owners. Nobody wants to make the calls, but you can make millions of dollars on the phone. So what are some types of calls that you can actually make with someone? So if you're going to label each sales call, what would you label them as? Let me give you a hint. A bit like the temperature. Write them down. What do you think they are? There's a pure cold call. A pure cold call is when you do not know anything about that person whatsoever. Targeted cold calls. This is when the person on the other end doesn't know who you are, but you know who they are. So you targeted them. A warm call. They could be on a list. They might have piqued interest at one stage. A hot call, they expect you to call them and they are interested in your product or service. And there's a follow-up call. So the 3 top calls are actually interruptions to somebody's day. Think of a door knocker or a salesperson on the street, a charity worker. So they need to ask permission. You need to tell them why you're calling and really hook somebody in for the first few seconds. Now, we go through this in full detail in the course, but on this, we'll give you some pointers. So, first you must define your purpose. Now, here's an example. Hi, I don't know you, you don't know me, but it's a cold call. I'm simply calling because I believe there might be some benefit for both of us. Well, what do you want? You need to be able to set the agenda and stay in control. You can either hang up and give me 30 seconds. Sound fair? It's up to you. What do you do to keep them on the phone? So if this is a cold call, you need to quickly identify and say to the customer, I really appreciate your time, so let me be quick. I help. Who and why, how, with what. I get the feeling you have none of these issues? Boom. You identify the problem and you've established the solution in the quick couple of minutes that you have with the customer. This can be used in a cold call straight away, but I highly suggest modifying it and practicing and changing it to suit you. But it must flow on the purpose, the agenda, keeping in control, and pitching something to keep them on the line to make sure that they're interested to identify the problem and establish that you have the solution in that quick 30 seconds. So if it's a cold call, if it's a warm call, it's going to be different. If it's a hot call, it's going to be different. If it's a follow-up, it's going to be different. Okay? So you may or may not know who's going to be on the other side of the phone. So you need to know how to actually cold call these people. You need to know how to do that. Because you need to know what type of call it is on, and you need to practice it. Because if you pick up the phone and somebody is on the other end that you don't know, they're a potential customer. If there's another person online, they're always a potential customer. So I suggest pitching to every single person that you meet. Now, you want to stand up like I'm doing. You don't want to read off a script all the time. Now, speak loud and proud. Allow your passion and excitement for the product or service. And don't stare at a script, because that way you might lose track. And you get more objections, and you'll get another question coming down the track that you don't feel like it's going to be natural. So let's practice. Come up with your own objection. There's going to be an objection sheet in the resources folder. Click on the resources folder. You can download that now. Take it out, use it, put as many objections you want in there and responses that you can actually think of. Use the common 5 objections that you have in there, but make sure you have a response for them and how you're going to handle them on your calls. Now, do not fear closing. Now, a close is a service to the customer, because if you're actually helping them make a decision, the close is only helping them make a decision that's benefiting everybody. Do you agree? If you're going to close somebody on a decision and it's not going to be beneficial for them, why would you be closing them on that solution? Are you going to make sure that this is a win-win-win situation for everybody involved? Win-win-win. 3 wins. For me, for you, and their customers, and their services. So you shouldn't fear closing at all. Closing happens naturally. Closing is as simple as, no dramas, I'll grab your card details. Closing is, can I grab that autograph proposal back? Thanks. Let's finalize this proposal. These are the simple closes. So what I want to ensure that everybody understands is that closing shouldn't be, sign this right now, let's get it done. Sign this here, sign this here. Closing is natural. Closing you should know how they feel. You've been through the questions, you've handled all their objections. They want to do the deal. They should be closing, they should be closing the deal with you. They should be saying, yeah, let's do it. If you can get them to say that, then you've done the deal. You've done it right. Remember, price is never an objection, it's a statement. So if people have pricing objections, it's not an objection. It's just a statement saying that they can't see the value in whatever that you're offering. Most objections that people say are actually just reactionary defensive. They're just responses because they don't know why you're calling them, or they don't understand what's going on. And it's defensive. So let's give you an example. It's too expensive. I can't afford it. I have no money. It's cheaper elsewhere. There's 3 examples of the same type of objection. Look, I agree if it's expensive and if it was cheap, what would you think of my service if it was super cheap? Is it the company? Is it the product? Is it what part are you not happy with? Do you think the company's too expensive? Do you think the parts are too expensive? Do you think the service is not enough? So they're actually asking, they just can't see the value in what you have. So always asking more questions and asking them what they think of each different area. So to nail it down onto one specific area. I need to talk to somebody. I need more research. I need other quotes. You hear this. This will be very, very, very familiar for everybody, small to medium-sized businesses. And you want to make sure that they understand that you wouldn't want them to do business if they weren't educated about what they were getting for their money. What research were they going to look for? Who do they need to speak with? What are you looking for when you're getting other quotes? Asking these questions after these reactionary responses. So these are actually objections. Reactionary responses are things like, I'm busy. These are all just defensive reactions because they don't understand what's going on. They can't see the value in their time being wasted. So, I don't have time. I'm busy. Not today. I understand your time's valuable. Don't want to waste each other's time. If you think it's a waste of time after 5 minutes, to highlight some key points, I'll eat my own hat if you don't enjoy it. So, breaking the ice and seeing if you can actually break their mood. Because if it's a reactionary defensive response, they might not be in a good mood. Seeing if you can break that barrier down between you. So you choose and figure out what you want to say. It's different for every single business and for every individual. Have your own way of selling. Have your own responses. But these are just some of the ways you can respond back. But first, you must always agree. I agree that your time is valuable and we don't want to waste each other's time. That is so powerful, saying that on a call. When you agree with somebody, you eliminate their argument. There's no argument to be had if you agree with somebody. So, what are you going to do on the phone? So, now that we're in this type of sales environment where all the selling now is primarily over the phone, what are some tips that you can use? What are some things? Now, we must first emphasize, right? Highlighting certain words or phrases is effective communication and helps you convey messages better. So focus on your inflection, especially on voicemails. So it's simply putting some makeup on your calls, highlighting your passion, and in turn sounding more convincing. So tonality. Simplify objections. So too many options can confuse buyers, and making it harder for them to actually rationalize and understand the decisions. So if you simplify their options into 1 or 2 simple outcomes for the customer, then they can arrive at a decision easier and they feel more confident because they're not missing out on anything. So giving them all the alternate options available, but simplifying it into maybe 1 or 2 things for them. Adopting a smart product position. So the way you frame up your product, that spells the difference between a closed deal and a lost opportunity. So there's a lot of research in behavioral economics that actually frame these products. So for example, saying $10, saving $10 feels oddly different across other buying scenarios versus buying a smartphone. So say for example, packaging the product as a solution instead of a commodity or service. This also increases the likelihood of conversion. At the end of the day, you perform better by solving problems than by selling products. So making sure that you're getting emotional. So the key to finding behavioral economics is that people rarely hinge on their product, like their purchasing decisions, and they need rational grounds behind it. So if you get emotional about what you're trying to sell, people will purchase more from you, because people purchase or buy emotionally and they make decisions logically. So if you can actually if you have a story in your presentation, in your solution, in your pitch, and you can create emotion and deliver it powerfully, then the customer will buy into your experience, into your product. And to be able to actually establish a decision-making ability at the end where they will actually make a decision on something, then you need to explain things rationally and in a rational mind. So having something laid out such as third-party data, rational cases, other testimonials, hard numbers, making sure you clarify the product's value. So not just listing the features and advantages and benefits, but clarifying the value that it provides in a maybe dollar sign, dollar figure. This is the build-up of the value. And also empowering these customers. So if you can empower people and put them in the shoes of the product or service and they can see themselves using it, the aim is to build long-term customers. So, and they feel like they have some sort of control of the outcome. So direct the conversation to this value proposition that empowers people. So also, like anything, there's a right time for things. And only 1% of buyers are ready to buy right now. Out of everybody in the world, there's only 1% of buyers that are ready. And 50% of customers will buy after the 5th call. So depending on your industry, the specific product, the prospect you're engaging, timing is everything. So a lot of people are going to be busy and you need to find time with these people. And we're all going to have you're going to have these times where it's going to be difficult and challenging to be able to book in and schedule 12 calls. But people will only give you the time if they've bought enough into your value and what you're worth and how much your time with them is going to be worth. So you need to be able to utilize all the avenues of communication. Messaging, texting, emailing, calling, right? The quickest way to get to somebody is to call them. So you always should be utilizing that first. But if people don't have time, use the other options. So in sales, you must observe, record, and predict your outcomes. So selling is a science. And if you don't observe, record, and predict things, budget, forecast, record your outcomes in a CRM, your day-to-day actions, your tasks, the calls that you're making, the emails you're making, the meetings that you're having, the closed deals that you're having, the ratios, then you're just limiting yourself. Selling is a science, and the art of persuasion, sales has also become a science-driven profession. Business intelligence, data analytics, behavioral modification, and key performance indicators are just some of the elements that make it up. So how do you then monitor each of your sales calls? Pace, volume, tone, and clarity all become important metrics that you can measure on each call. So ensuring that you're observing and recording each call, visualizing it, and making sure that these can be put down to a number. Put a pace figure in there, put a volume figure in there. Is your tone and clarity there? And identify these on every single call, meeting, email even. So there's a couple of different tones that you can use. Apathetic, defensive, curious. So if you're convincing listeners The key to running around and being professional is being aware of physical cues. Understanding people on an emotional level is a cue. So the number one thing we need to look at is body language. 55% of all communication is made by body language. Now, you're on the phone, so even your body language is having an impression. So if I was like this, hey, how you going? Hey, how you going? You have a different tone. So smiling even makes the whole tone different, volume, clarity. So there are a lot of nonverbal cues that you need to actually understand when you're with the customer. So over the phone, these are the 4 things that will actually help you if you can put them in a scale of 1 to 10. What are they? Pace, volume, tone, clarity. Okay? You also need to make sure that you're eliminating uncertainty with your buyers. There's only one thing that will make a lead or a potential customer or an opportunity and turn them into an actual decision-making customer, and that is certainty. So if you can eliminate the uncertainty with people, and you'll have a decision. Whether it's a decision is good or bad for the outcome, a closed deal or a no, right? You're still eliminating the uncertainty. So, how do you eliminate uncertainty? Well, there's plenty of ways. You can not interrupt people. You can show people that you're listening. You can call people with a great attitude, with the knowledge of everything in the industry, your product, your service. So generally the best way of eliminating uncertainty is to go through all the different options, to go through all the different ins and outs, and knowing that you have clear product, service, understanding, that eliminates uncertainty. Being there and replying to communications effectively, quickly, with the right answers, making sure everything's transparent and the truth and truthful. Genuine tones, languages. So cheerful language, using brilliant, happy, you're welcome, fantastic, it's my pleasure. What are some other ones that you can say? That's great, wonderful. Any more? What are some positive, cheerful languages that you can use to eliminate uncertainty? Rapport, trust. So these things are the biggest ways of eliminating the uncertainty. Being trustful, having rapport will give you allow the potential opportunity and customer to have some faith in what you have. Gives you the trusted advisor position. Be clear and always give them their time. All right, number 3. What were the first 2? First one was, what was it? Why? Number 2, what was the number 2? Recipe, process. Recipe and process. So number 1 is why sales. Number 2 is recipe process. Number 3 is the follow-up. So what did we cover in 2? Now, I want to hear all your thoughts. Write them down. I want to know what we covered, so everybody else knows. So 2, recipe. So we need to build up a specific process that's repeatable and predictable. We need to understand the tips on the phone and how we can actually sell on the phone. Now, 3, follow-up. Life is all about the follow-up, especially when it comes to sales. So it's easy to focus on the initial contact, the first meeting, the email that you've sent to somebody that's important. Now, you reach out to somebody, then you feel good about yourself, you've done your job, but you've pitched and reached out, you've asked for a meeting, now all you do is sit around and wait for them to respond, right? Wrong. That's the problem, right? You need to actually follow up. Everything, all the fortune that you ever have in your life is simply done because somebody follows up. Most of the sales people out there make their money from doing things that other people don't want to do. I hate sales, right? I truly do. But I love teaching people about it. And I hate sales because it's the same thing. You got to just follow up. People don't want to do these things. And you get paid high because people don't want to follow up. And that is the reason why you will win, is if you follow up more than the other person. You keep persistent, that's where the money's in. So, oh, look at that, that's pretty. So, here's a contact probability arc. So, you don't want to be a pain in the ass. You don't want to get rejected. So, the key is to keep it short and sweet and remain persistent. So, here's the probability of actually making contact with somebody. You're a 93% chance if you've made 6 call attempts, 80% chance if you've done 3 calls, but only a 48% chance if you make 1 call. So always make sure that you hit 6 calls if they don't get back to you. Follow up as many times as necessary, but there's a couple of different ways we can do that. So who should you actually be following up with? Here's a typical funnel. So your best opportunities are the new customers, and putting them in through the process the quickest will get you your best outcome. So you always want to actually follow new input customers first, because that is where, if you don't have any new coming in, you'll never have anyone. So always remain on top of the new leads that are coming in. Always stay committed to bringing in new opportunities as much as possible, making sure you contact them, actually meet them, and then making sure that they're still committed. Typical focus is on the bottom, where they've actually won. But you should be doing that straight away anyway. But where the opportunity truly lies is the new opportunities that actually haven't been contacted yet, or are leads that are coming in through your funnel. There's no right or wrong way for this follow-up procedure. The easiest way is to use a CRM. Set simple follow-up reminders and have some automation. Day 1, you've offered the solution to the customer. Do you have a follow-up on the day 3? What are you doing? Always make sure that you send an email, maybe the day after. Maybe you call up the day after. Maybe day 3 you send an email and call at the same time. Day 7, are you then sending another email after you've called? Have you sent a text? Day 14, it's a week now. If they haven't answered day 1, 3, or 7, then you can split it out by a week. Then split it out by another fortnight, and then split it out by a month. So then you can put them into your email nurturing. You've tried 6 times. It's been a case of 50 days, 2 months, and no answer. That is when you know you get a right answer for something. If they don't come back to you and they don't answer any of these calls, it's a good indication. It's a good indication that your girlfriend's ghosting you as well. So, email, calls, text, each and every one of these follow-up days. 1, 3, 7, 14, 28, 58. Get it? I'd be doing an email and a text and a call, just in case. Socials, but the number 1 being calls. So, how many of your leads? This is a stat from Glenester Research, and InsideSales.com. This 50% of leads are qualified but are not ready to buy. So even if you've qualified somebody, they're not ready to buy because 50% of the sales actually happen after the 5th contact. So if you're not even making 5 calls, you're actually losing out on a lot more sales. So why is training actually important, and how do you learn? So with sales, there's no structure. There's no structure and no education system or qualifications that you can receive. So e-learning is literally the only way of doing this. Using a method that has been tested and tried, that works and saves you time and money. The traditional education system is flawed. So you need a way that somebody else has actually done this. And that's what I've done. And that's what I aim to achieve with my online training course. So hey guys, what did you learn? What did you take away? Now there'll be a survey on what you think of this. I'd love you to fill it in, answer the questions. I'd love to hear from you guys. Any questions at the end of this, please fill them into the chat and I'll get back to them as soon as possible. What did you take away? Now, with a couple of our other clients, what they've actually said with our course is a little Twitter bird. This is what they've said. So, Aaron from Pedley's, he believes that I have a unique way of communicating with everybody. And over the last 4 years, Pedley's gone from $1 million to $10 million annual turnover. Now with 10 sales reps. Miles as well. With the mastermind sales in February, they saw their highest revenue month ever. Rove, he was an engineer and he needed some coaching. Believes it's a highly engaging coaching program. Matthew, who works for Gingerbread Agency, their pipeline was full of leads, but they just didn't know how to convert them. So the practical workshop that they went on, they understood how they can increase their closure rate on every single one of their deals. Nathan as well from Futurity Digital, same thing. They literally tripled their closure rate over 3 weeks with the program. Outside sales training, so it's for small business owners and sales teams, okay? So if you're one of those, let me know, reach out with me. There are 3 things that we have to offer. Is an online academy, live and digital workshops. Because of COVID, we've got the workshops now digital. So that's a 2-day workshop. Coaching and consulting for one-on-one operations, whether you're one-on-one for your team, your sales reps, or yourself as a business owner. So, outside sales online academy. This includes hours of footage, 23 chapters of all the information that you need to actually build your sales process. There's virtual mentorship from myself and access to our Facebook and LinkedIn communities. We've got templates, workbooks, and plans as well that you can utilize, and there's all the free webinars and trainings that you'll have access to. You'll get access to the online portal on Teachable. Simply click the Enroll Now button and take a look. We're actually also offering 50% off this webinar for 1 hour only. So generally it's normally $1,000 for the course, and you get 12 months access for only $497. That's a whole 50% off just in an hour of this course. So take advantage of that. The investment, so for our actual workshops, there's a 2-day workshop, which is a highly provoking, thought-intensive, practical application style workshop. And in 2 days, you'll learn all the required actions that you need to have to be a successful salesperson. So it's essentially a more entertaining and interactive version of the online training, but put into 2 days. Normally it's $2,000, and for 1 hour only on the webinar, it's 50% off. So book an outside perspective call right now, and that'll activate that 50% offer. I'll be delivering those 2 days of 2 days workshop. It can be for any size team. There's practical role players, there's takeaway booklets, scripts and sheets, and it's COVID safe for any size. So book an outside perspective call now. Now, what you'll actually take away from the online training, the self-paced online training or the workshop, is we'll build your perfect road to the sale. You'll understand your buyer's psychology, increase your customer spend and satisfaction, employees, build idea phone scripts, increase your negotiation skills, hit your targets, shorten sales cycles, close more deals, set goals, visions, achieve more. So I'm just rattling off these amazing benefits that you'll get out of this course. So if you don't believe me, there's heaps of testimonials to come. There's heaps of things that you can look at where we've gone and we've implemented into their business, and we've got return on investment of up to 300%. Now, if those don't seem appealing to you, we've also got our 6 to 12 month sales strategy design, coaching and training programs. So all you need to do is book an outside perspective call, and the investment is based on the appointment. So it's customizable in-house live workshops, email automations, sales copy solutions, CRM integration, sales plan development, webinar trainings, one-on-one coaching, access any size team, where your sales process and pipeline is going to be completely transformed. And obviously these are very high touch, so I only have a few of these on the go at any one time. So please fill in the questionnaire and I'll let you know when the next opening is. So simply hit enroll now for the online training course and take advantage of that 50% offer, or book an outside perspective call now. But thank you so much, guys. I had so much fun putting this together. I really appreciate that. If you have any questions, please get into the chat. Look out for some of the recordings. I'll send this out in an email as well, an email recording, the slides, and there's a free trial as well for our online training course too. So take advantage of that, and hopefully I'll wait for our other webinars, because there's going to be some others coming out as well. So you can even subscribe too. So thanks so much, guys. Hope you found that heaps valuable, and hopefully talk to you guys soon. Get out there selling.